think I shared the story with you of a
Yeah.
retired doctor who's 94 years old. He's in Colorado, and I think he's rode over 1 million miles. And there was a huge celebration and a lot of press. And that's what's really unique about this training modality. I don't want to jump around that much anymore.
Yeah, I don't either.
Yeah, no, I know. I don't want to jump around like that. I don't want to do that type of impact, but I like the feeling of working in a very challenging way. I've been teaching fitness for over 30 years. I'm 60. I want to teach it a couple more decades still. That's what having vitality for me means. Playing with your children or your grandchildren,
hmm
that's having vitality, keeping up with your grandkids, being able to travel and climb mountains, things like your sister does at 63, 64, like playing hockey.
Yeah, I don't know that the general population out there understands that physical fitness and strength and agility and endurance are important to optimal aging. Hi, everyone, and welcome to Optimal Aging, the show for fitness, health, and well-being professionals who want to grow their businesses with people over the age of 50 or so. I'm your host, Jay Croft of Prime Fit Content, and the topic today could not be more on point for my show. That's because we're talking about Row House, a nationwide chain of indoor rowing studios that has come up with a really exciting new marketing focus on people over 40. And no, not exclusively people over 40. Of course, younger people are still being marketed to as well. But Row House is making no bones about it. They are going after this slightly older segment of the population. I couldn't be more excited. It's a really interesting idea, and I love how it came about and how it's being executed. And we're going to hear about all of this from my guest today, who is Row House's manager of training, Noel Miller, a 30-year fitness professional and also my partner in life. Noel's here to tell us about the how and why of Row House came up with this plan. It's really interesting, and I'm excited to share it with you and hear what you think about it. Now, if you have not been to Row House, I want you to give it a try. It's a great workout. Of course, rowing is. It's why it's been around for so long, after all. And Row House modernizes it with fun, high energy, low impact experience that delivers a full body workout set to upbeat music with lots of enthusiasm to keep you going. So now, all the way from another part of my house, here is Noel Miller of Row House. Enjoy our conversation. Well, Noel, hi, welcome to the show for the first time.
Oh, thank you. I'm glad to be here.
Yeah, I'm glad to have you on, especially to talk about this initiative that Row House is doing. It's really interesting and jives beautifully with what I like to talk about, which is how fitness businesses can market themselves more effectively to people who are a little older than the traditional market of people in their 20s or so. And I don't want to get into the details too much because I want you to do that, to tell people about what Row House is up to with this. It's really interesting and very exciting. But before we get to all of that, tell the folks a little bit about your background in fitness and how you came to be with Row House.
Great. So I've always been someone that's been active in life, and I've been in fitness as a participant over 40 years. I can remember my first aerobics class when I was in college and I was 18, and I just loved it. In terms of leading fitness classes, I've been in the fitness industry over 30 years, and I've spent the last 25 years training instructors to teach group exercise programs, and specifically group exercise programs that are set to music.
Okay. And then how long have you been with Row House, and how did you come to connect with the Row House after 20 years or so in fitness?
Yeah, so it is actually the pandemic. I believe it was 2021. I've been working for a company for a number of years, and I just wanted to find out what else was out there. And I started looking in Indeed and all of those places, and I saw an ad for this studio I hadn't heard of before called Row House. And there were two things that spoke to me. There was exercise to music, and boutique fitness. And I've always been a fan of boutique fitness and the communities that's there. And I've always been a fan of exercise and music. So I just thought I'd apply to coach at a studio here in Atlanta, and they accepted me. And I went through training, and I really loved coaching the class. And then, fast forward a couple of years, I'd been in communication with headquarters at Row House and invited to be a master coach a few years ago. And then just over the summer, I became the training manager. So I'm responsible for training of coaches and ongoing development and training of coaches at our studios across the country.
And what, you have about 40 studios now across the country, is that right?
Yes, yes.
Okay, super. So tell us about what we're talking about here today.
Yeah, so this came about because, we felt that the Row House brand had been a little stagnant, and we wanted to explore how to move forward and grow the brand more. And so we worked with an agency, and we really did a deep dive in terms of who we are as a brand, who our customer is. Our agency that we partnered with, we interviewed coaches and staffs and participants in classes and owners of franchises, Row House franchises, just to see what really stood out for us and made us unique in the fitness space. And we found that, our general member skews over 40, basically, and we decided just to lean into it. So as opposed to trying to be something that we're not, really lean into what we do well. And what do we do well? We use the indoor rower. So we're an indoor rowing studio.
Mm-hmm.
But really, what indoor rowing is an exercise modality that's low impact. And low impact is a great way to train, especially in this context, because we can approach our training a few different ways. We can do endurance training, we can do metabolic training, we can do strength training, active recovery, all in a low impact environment. And that's really appealing because there's longevity with that. When you look at people that are taking row house classes, you have everyone from 20-year-olds to 90-year-olds. I think I shared the story with you of a
Yeah.
retired doctor who's 94 years old. He's in Colorado, and I think he's rode over 1 million miles. And there was a huge celebration and a lot of press. And that's what's really unique about this training modality. It really allows you to be fit for life, to train for life, and really fit for life. It fit for your life in everything that you do in your life, but also fit for life, such that you can actually take this. We're all aging, and this training modality you can take in whatever era you are in your life, and
Mm-hmm.
continue doing it, even working through injuries or pregnancies or anything like that, because it's non-impact. I think I shared with you a friend of mine who's in his early 60s. And he knew he needed to have his knee replaced. He was having issues with his knees, and he was overweight, larger, and he wanted to get back into fitness. And so he came to a row house and class that I was teaching, and he just loved it, even though he had the concern about his knee. Well, fast forward, he was able to continue accumulating a lot of meters up until his knee replacement surgery. He had a recovery of about 3 or 4 weeks before he was back on the erg. And erg is another name for an indoor rower. He was back in the erg taking classes. And, you look at him now, he looks amazing. He's svelte. He's continuing to work out. His knee replacement surgery went great. And he's just really in a great place. And, he was able to challenge himself really effectively with this piece of equipment in a way that had a great impact on him, on his person, on his life.
Mm-hmm.
And really, work through any injuries or kinks that he had.
Before I joined you at a row house class 3 or 4 years ago, I don't think I'd ever been to a rowing class. I probably had played around on an old fashioned rower once or twice at
Mhm.
a gym, because there's always one in the corner.
Yeah.
Um, and like a lot of people, I assumed it was all in your arms, that you grab and you hold the bar and you pull it with your arms, and that's just all you're doing, right?
Mhm.
Well,
Right.
you learn very quickly that that's not what rowing is, and that it's this major full body workout involving your legs and your core and your glutes and the arms. I don't know. I guess they're involved too, but it's not really what I thought it was. And then you have the music going and it's very upbeat, and you get off the erg every once in a while to do some weights or stretches or something else. So it's a really exciting, fun, engaging thing attached to something that, people might have some old fashioned ideas about. Is that fair?
Yeah, because I would say you're absolutely right. I would say just about everyone knows what an indoor rower is.
Yeah,
You had seen one before you ever went to a row
sure.
house class, and you probably maybe dabbled around with it before you did your real workout. Um,
Yeah.
yeah, so most people know what a rower is, but a lot of people don't know how to use it safely and effectively. And that's one of the beauties of row house also, is that we train our coaches to be able to coach people to use the equipment effectively. And when you're rowing, you're actually using 85% of your body.
Mm,
85% of the muscles of your body. And it's, a lot of people think that rowing is a pulling
yeah.
activity where you're using your arms, but it's actually a pushing activity where you primarily start the movement with your lower body, with your legs. So 60% of rowing is your legs. All right.
Hmm.
And your legs are your largest muscle group. So that's a very powerful part of your body. So it's 60% legs, 30% core, and 10% arms. So it is very full body. And when you learn how to use the erg and row properly and effectively, it's a great training modality because it's very efficient as well. And
Hmm.
then we have, like you mentioned, in terms of the other equipment, we do floor work. And when we're doing floor work, sometimes we're using weights, up to 40-pound dumbbells. Sometimes we're using resistance bands, glute bands, Pilates balls. It depends on the focus or the training objective of the class type.
Uh-huh.
That's what determines the equipment that we're using. So we really have an opportunity to lean in and anchor our workouts into different key training modalities.
Right. Okay. So you've been doing this at row houses for 10 or 11 years now, and you researched your client base to decide on direction for where you were going, which is
Yeah.
super smart. And I love the idea of leaning into what you found instead of trying to adopt some marketing strategy from out there somewhere and forcing it onto your business. And I think that's really smart. A lot of gyms and fitness businesses are trying to figure out how to reach this market of people who are over 40, over 50, what have you. And this is a really great way to do it because it's organic, right? Can you speak to that? I know you know a lot of your clients, a lot of your customers. You mentioned the friend of yours, and you filmed that beautiful video out in Denver that you're using a lot on social media now. I'm just curious about that. Why do you think that this already has such appeal for people who are a little bit older, and why then are they such great customers to pursue?
Yeah, you know what? I think the appeal is a few different things. One is that it is low impact. So,
Mhm.
for myself, I'll speak for myself personally. I've been jumping around like I'm 60, and I've been jumping around like crazy all my life. I've always been very active. I ran track in high school. I started doing gymnastics and jumping around in fitness classes. And to be quite honest, I don't want to jump around that much anymore.
Yeah, I don't either.
Yeah, no, I know. I don't want to jump around like that. I don't want to do that type of impact, but I like the feeling of working in a very challenging way, in a very
Mhm.
physically challenging way. And so, different people that have, if we look at the over 40 demographic, we quite often have things that are going on in our bodies,
Mhm.
that if we were to do a lot of jumping, it's just not comfortable and we don't want to do, or we don't have the ability to do. Well, you can on a rower. You can
Yeah.
work out just as intensely on the rower because it's full body and because it's very effort based as well. And what I mean by effort based, as the rower, you have the opportunity to determine how hard you want to work based on how hard you push.
Hmm. Hmm. Talk to me about the low impact. You've got this we often hear about HIT, high intensity interval training.
Mhm.
And now we're talking about high
HILIT.
intensity, yeah, HILIT, high intensity, low impact training. Okay. So that's what this is. Tell me,
Exactly.
tell me why high intensity, low impact training is good for and appealing to people like you're describing yourself.
Yes, yes. Well, it's appealing because of a lot of the benefits of hit training, but without the impact.
Mm,
So you have an opportunity to work anaerobically or get very out of breath, so to speak,
yeah.
which is one energy system. And you have an opportunity to work with endurance training as well. So, hillit training, you train different energy systems. All right, which is great for the body. It also allows the body to burn calories more effectively, which is important to just about everyone, as well as continue burning calories once you've stopped that particular mode of training.
Hmm.
So with high intensity, low impact training, you're working at high intensity levels and then recover, high intensity levels, then recover. So there's short bursts of high intensity, and it's at an intensity level that you cannot sustain for a long period of time.
Okay.
This is different than endurance training, which is another great form
Yeah.
of cardiovascular training, which we can do at Row House as well. In endurance training, you're training at a lower intensity level. Generally, it's called aerobic training. You're using oxygen and you can sustain that for a long period of time. With high intensity training or HILIT, you can train at higher intensity levels and then recover, which is great for the body.
Hey, are you a fitness professional trying to grow your business with people over 50? If you are, then you need to know how to communicate with them, how to market to them, and how to get them to trust you with their fitness, well being, and money. We're talking about millions of people who are a little older than the typical market that the fitness industry usually pursues. They have more money, more time, and better motivation to make the best long term fitness consumers you'll find anywhere. If you're not focusing on them, you should be. Prime Fit Content is the only content marketing company designed specifically to help you engage people in this group and to help you distinguish yourself from competitors in your community. It's effective, affordable, and super easy to use. Check it out at primefitcontent.com. That's prime, like prime of your life, fitcontent.com. Back to the show. All right, so that's the intensity, but tell me about the low impact, because by the time you're middle-aged and a little bit older, you might have some joint issues, some other things where that high impact exercise can be uncomfortable. Tell us about
Absolutely.
that.
Yes, yes. So no, you actually stated it. Since it's low impact, if there are people that have joint pain, just like my friend that I mentioned
Yeah.
earlier with his knee, it's gentler on your joints than
Okay.
impact. So if you live with joint pain, then this is something that you can still do at an intensity level that's great for the body. I'll even speak for myself again. I have an off and on recurring injury in my ankles that I've had for a couple of decades. And when it acts up, I can still row. When it acts
Mm,
up, I can't do anything with impact.
right. Gotcha. Okay. So tell us how this information that you all learned from your research is going to be played out in your marketing. I've seen some of it. I'm not sure if it's out there yet, and
Mhm.
if whether it is or not. What's the key message that you're telling folks relevant to all of this?
Yeah, I think there are a few key messages. Probably the main one is vitality. What is vitality and how fitness and how Row House can actually bring vitality in your life. And probably it means something a little different for everyone. I know for me, it's being able So I've been teaching fitness for over 30 years. I'm 60. I want to teach it a couple more decades still. That's what having vitality for me means. And I
Hmm.
like to teach it in similar environments that I'm doing right now. Playing with your children or your grandchildren.
Hmm.
That's having vitality, keeping up with your grandkids, being able to travel and climb mountains, things like your sister does at 63, 64, like playing hockey
Yeah.
with a group of women. That's having vitality in your life. It's being alive with exuberance. That's one thing. One of the things that you'll see in our marketing is actual people who do row house. So you
Yeah.
mentioned the photo shoot that we did a couple of months ago. We went to Colorado and we had members that were in our photo shoots and gave testimonials. There was one that went out on social media today that I sent you. I think
Hmm.
his name was Brian. He was
Yeah.
52, and he's mentioned something about, being in these athletic situations and thinking, oh, I guess these younger guys are trying to figure out what this old 52-year-old guy can do.
Yeah.
That's great that he wants to be in that environment and show people up a little bit.
Yeah. Yeah. Absolutely. I love it. So this idea of vitality, oftentimes people think of fitness as being related to looks. I want to look
Mhm.
good. I'm just doing this to lose weight or I look better or what have you. And I don't think there's anything wrong with caring about how you look, and exercise does improve your looks, but more than anything, when I work with gyms who focus on the older market, I know that's a loaded word for some people, but basically I just mean 40, 50 and over. So you've got folks who want to enjoy their lives, and being fit helps them do that. And I love this idea of connecting this traditional exercise modality with this concept of vitality, playing with your grandkids and traveling and continuing to play golf and tennis and garden and ballroom dance, and or just do whatever you want to do, because it really is this full body workout. So
Mhm.
it's really exciting to me to see you all focusing on this segment of the population. Just come right out and say it. For some reason, there's a hesitancy among some in fitness to say they want people who aren't 25 to come into their gym, but you guys are just going for it.
Yeah, exactly. And you know what? I love what you said something about earlier about working out with the motivation of how you look.
Yeah.
That nothing wrong with that. Like you
Right.
said, it quite often when we're younger, that may be our initial motivation.
Yeah.
And I think probably what wherever we are in our life, we still want to present ourselves well, but probably over life, motivation changes.
Yeah.
And maybe, vanity, well, I'll say it. 20 years ago, when I went in my first fitness class and started lifting weights in the gym, it was definitely back vanity.
Absolutely. Me too.
It was definitely the case. And that was what carried me around for, in that space before I started doing it professionally for a little bit of time. And then I started doing it professionally. But over time, it shifted from vanity to something to living life to its fullest more because as I saw my mother as she aged. She was very sedentary.
Hmm.
All right, she had an office job. She was a buyer for the Navy. She worked 10 hours a day, would drive to work those 10 hours, come home, sit down, watch TV, fall asleep. That's what she did
Yeah.
for decades. And then, she retired and we had the challenge of dementia and not being able to take care of oneself and needing help.
Hmm.
And, chances are it's a product of her inactivity.
Hmm.
And that's not how I want to progress through my life.
Right.
I've said this to you before. I want to teach classes 10 years from now, 15 years from now. I want to travel. I want to be self-sufficient.
Yeah.
And having fitness in my life is something that's going to allow that.
So how is Row House going to go about explaining this to people or persuading people of this? You know this, and I know this because
Yeah.
it's what we do every day for a living. But I don't know that the general population out there understands that physical fitness and strength and agility and endurance are important to optimal aging,
Yeah, absolutely.
right?
Absolutely.
So
Yes.
tell me about the components of the marketing campaign that you're all doing to get that out there.
Testimonials. So people that are experiencing exactly what we're talking about. So you saw that one video that I sent you
Yeah.
of Brian. That was recorded in the at the photo shoot that we did. And there are others as well. So that was just the first one that you would have seen. So we are supporting that through our social media campaigns, and then other studios will be pushing that out as well. We have additional campaigns that will be focusing on different aspects like that as well. When I say testimonial, video testimonials,
Yeah.
where they're
Yeah.
saying it in their
Yeah.
words and sharing their own words. And I think that's so important because testimonials you can read as well,
Sure.
but that's very flat. When you hear someone share their experience, their story in such a genuine way, that's something that someone else can connect to.
And when you see them and they're ordinary people, they're not movie stars or fitness models. They look like ordinary people. They are ordinary people.
Yeah, yeah,
It's
and
very,
that's what you'll see in our images. So all of the images that we have that we shot in that campaign are real people with lives outside of fitness that are basically doing what they enjoy that brings them life and
Mhm.
vitality, and sharing them in that visual medium to other people to, hopefully inspire other people to want to try that as well.
Yeah, yeah, it's super important. Those stories appeal to our emotions. You and I can talk about the benefits of being strong and limber all day, but nothing like a story to make someone go, "Oh, that's just like my mother," or "Oh, that could be me if I'm not careful," or "That reminds me of how much fun I used to have playing soccer," whatever it is, right?
Yeah, and when you said that could be me if I'm not careful,
Yeah,
how many, you know, 40-year-old millennials could be thinking that and thinking that, oh my goodness, I need to make some movement decisions now so that I can continue to live in a way that is self-sufficient,
yeah,
in a way, and to continue for the next few decades to live the way that I am now. I better
yeah.
start doing something now about that.
I think that message is getting out there more and more. I talk about it a lot on this podcast and I write about it a lot in my business and for other fitness brands I work with. I think it's getting out there more and more. And I'm glad you mentioned the 40 year olds. And it's interesting that Row House is saying 40 and above, because when I started writing about these topics 5 or 6 or 7 years ago, everyone said, "Oh, baby boomers." It's like, no, not baby boomers. It's not what we're
Mhm.
talking about. I'm technically a baby boomer, but just barely, and I'm 62 in a couple of weeks. So
Mhm.
I'm like the last of the baby boomers. So we're talking about people really 70 or so who are the core of the baby boomers. And that's great. That's a segment of the population that fitness businesses should be serving. But 40 somethings, that's different. It's a different phase in life. Your body is different, but also you grew up with a different frame of mind for fitness and exercise and health. So again, I think it's just really savvy the way you guys researched this and are leaning into it, as you said.
Yeah, and we feel really fortunate that we were able to work with this agency to get this insight and really, really, do what we do well, do it for who we do well,
Hmm.
and let other, and when I say that, it row house can be for anyone who wants that, whether they're in their 20s, 30s, 40s, 50s, 60s,
Yeah,
70s. Exactly. So we're not at all exclusive in that way, but looking at what we do well and embracing it in the
yeah,
best way we possibly can.
yeah. That's super smart. I do some work with Alloy Personal Training,
Mhm.
which is a growing national chain, and their target market is at 40 and above, 45 and above, something like that. And it's not because they love older people or because they really think it's awesome to be 50 or anything like that. It's that they did what y'all did. They
Mhm.
they did their research into who their avatar is. And they found that their avatar wants personal training, small group personal training, and that they're willing and able to pay for it.
Right.
Unlike most 25-year-olds who, are just looking for the cheapest deal they can find. So it's just really smart to look at your customers and find ways to serve them instead of forcing something onto it. Are there any other lessons, I guess, that you all have learned that you feel like you can share with other gyms, other fitness businesses out there, even just small ones, small mom and pops out there who are thinking, it's a lot of people out there in my community over 40, 50, 60 years old. How can I get them involved?
You know what I think probably, and it's something that I've heard you say many times, is you have to show the people who you want to attract.
Yeah.
You have to show them in your marketing, because if you don't show them, how are they, others, going to know that you want them?
Yeah. What is next? What's coming up for Row House's efforts here in this regard?
Well, getting more people active and into the studios and growing the brand. We have exciting things coming up. I can't share all the secrets.
No, no, not all of
Course
them.
not. No, of course not. But I think, the focus is really growing and aligning the brand across the network, grow the communities, get more people in the row house communities moving in our studios.
And I meant to say this earlier, but this is a good time to bring it up. If somebody under 40 comes in, you're not going to tell them to go away.
No,
You're not focusing exclusively on only people
no,
who are
no.
40 and above, right?
No, of course not. When I've taught class before, I've had someone who's 14 in class having a
Mm,
great time with their parent, and someone who's in another corner over there who's in their 60s. So
right,
absolutely not.
right. Okay. Now, Row House is a growing franchise system. So I want you to tell the folks where they can go for two reasons: to learn more about Row House, either as a potential business investment or as just a place to go work out. Where can I learn more information about Row House?
Absolutely. So, whether it's for either of those, whether investing or finding a studio close by, go to our website. It's www.therowhouse.com. That's THEROWHOUSE.com.
Okay, beautiful. Well, I think that's it. Is there anything that we need to cover about what you all are doing?
You know what? I can't think of anything right now.
Yeah.
I think we got it all in there.
Well, good. I just think it's really cool to see an established business like Row House with studios everywhere making this decision, and I look forward to seeing how it goes for you all.
Awesome. Thank you. Well, thank you for having me.
Well, thanks for joining me.